Manchester United in focus, right? The Premier League fixtures were announced, and so the first 5 games for Manchester United.
Mhm.
They opened the campaign at home to Arsenal, and they're away to Fulham. They're at home then to newly promoted Burnley, who had the best defensive record in the Championship last season. Then it's the Manchester derby away from home, and then it's Chelsea. Three of
Mhm.
those top four, that is Arsenal, City, and Chelsea, of course, Champions League teams. And then, as I mentioned, the newly promoted team, and then away at a Fulham who they did beat, did the double over twice, but a Fulham who were good against top opposition teams, of which I suppose United weren't. But Chuck, first 5 games,
Mm.
is this something United need? Is it going to light that fire from the get-go that they need to perform, like get out of the blocks quickly? Or do you think this is something that might actually scupper the season before it even starts?
I mean, yeah, it's quite hectic. City, Chelsea, Arsenal. That's a big ask, right? But I think, right, it's unlike the Ten Hag thing where the first couple of games were Brighton and Brentford and we got hammered. I think this is a great litmus test that at home against Arsenal, how good are you? How far are you, right? Even if everyone's not at the races, not everyone is going to be at full power in game number 1, but they're well on their way to being there because by the time you get to game number 4 and 5, your number 1 is already at the top of the league, and chances are the guys who are going to continue in the top 4, most of them are already in that space, in and around that place. So I guess it's a good start against Arsenal. The trouble is in, which is not just Arsenal, right? There's City after that. There's Chelsea after that. There's, as you said, a Fulham who can be tricky. And the only easy game, if you want to even argue, is maybe Burnley because championship sides tend to be obviously a lot weaker when they come to the actual Premier League. So it's a tester, Jay. But the guy promised us that we're going to be much better. He sees good days ahead. He said we want to see a lot of suffering. Suffer we did. But one, they're not at the Club World Cup. They must be practicing. They must be getting to grips with the ideology or the system of play. And number 4, there's a Matthias Cunha since joined the ranks. I don't know what's holding up the Brian Mbumo signing, but I think that could happen as well.
I think Thomas Frank wants his man over at Spurs, and Spurs might be willing to pay more money than United are willing to part ways with.
But it's the pool. I tell Thomas Frank, it's the pool. Boy, Mbumo's coming as well.
But then if Brentford are like, hey, you guys are offering 55 million, whereas Spurs are wanting to add 15 million on top, yeah, he's not going there.
So rather, let's say we have both those signings. That increases our firepower exponentially. Like we become so much better. And it's a matter of what do we do then in midfield to be competitive? Because I think against Arsenal, we're inferior competitive. We're inferior in terms of midfield competition. Same way with City, same with Chelsea. And so you wonder, and so it's a tough start, Jay. And I think to myself, if we get out of there with 2 wins and a draw, I'm happy. It's a tough start because after that it's smooth sailing. So for me, it's a tough start. It could scupper us, but if we go out there with at least 7 points, I know it's not enough. 7 over 15, 7 points, Jay, with like a relatively easy run after that. I'd take that.
What are you talking about?
7 wins.
No. What are you talking about? Like in the space of 30 seconds, you just said smooth sailing and you said easy. Who are we talking about here? We're talking about Manchester United. Because, yes, the fixtures will turn. But a team that finished in 15th, right?
Yeah.
In 15th place, Chuck, you wanna then look at the other teams and the other fixtures and you're going to use the term smooth sailing.
Yeah,
easy.
because
for Manchester,
we're not supposed to be there. They know it as well. When we get back, like I said, when we get back to who we are, when Bruno is working and Casemiro proved to be decent, when we've got Matthias Cunha, we've got Ahmad back, and we've got we've got the potential to do exactly as I say. Yes, it hasn't happened.
Let me tell you what exactly is going to happen then if you have a terrible start in those first 5 games. The fans are going to turn. Like it's the off season right now. And the emotions of Manchester United fans are a little dour, or rather in terms of they're not, the flames are not engulfing everyone as they did like at the heights of the terrible performances last season. Because it's the off season. Mm-hmm. You're not watching Manchester United week in, week out, break your heart and disappoint you and give you a sense of here we go again, as they tended to do. And so like there's a calm, Chuck, is what I'm saying. But the moment it starts looking like it did before, you know what is going to happen. That those Manchester United fans are going to not be patient with what they're watching. They're not going to be thinking about, man, there's a turn of fixtures coming around the corner, and it's going to be smooth sailing or it's going to be easy. It's going to be chaos once again. And that thing, it feels like, Chuck, those feelings, they seep into the team, like, and everything that is happening at Manchester United. So I am afraid for United in terms of those first 5 fixtures, because
do you think they're season defining?
The Champions League, Chuck.
Do you think they're season defining?
I think they can be, and
if we
I
falter
also
very
say this,
badly,
Chuck, as an Arsenal fan, I was somebody who was like, well, you get to play everybody anyway, so it doesn't matter who you start with, you know. That's what you. After last season, I know for a fact, like, nope. You want to ease your way into a campaign, Chuck. You want to have fixtures whereby you feel as though you can win them, because even going into them before anything happens, right? Which is where you are coming from, I believe, that it's smooth sailing, because you haven't seen any of these teams, right? I mean, you would have used the same language around Nottingham Forest last season before the season started, but as the season goes, then you realize, okay, this is actually a tough fixture. But before that happens, yes, on paper it is what it is, and that's what you want going into the season. Before we see how everybody is performing, you have that confidence within yourselves, and maybe that is also enough to get you over an opponent who maybe is actually tougher than what you thought. But because within your own mind, the mindset that you go into that game with is that we are supposed to be dominant, or we're supposed to be better, we're supposed to win, and it translates in terms of your performance. So I do believe you want to ease your way into a league campaign, get those victories, those points, those performances under the belt, and then you go into the tougher fixtures with a self-confidence that is built from what you've already done on the field of play. You go out there and say you lose the first game against Arsenal. That's at Old Trafford. It's the first game. And then you go away to Fulham, who were strong last season, but I did mention United did the double over them. You would hope that you win that. If that's a draw, now you're coming back at home against Burnley, and that's a must win, you know. And Burnley are going to come there, and they're going to be defensive stalwarts in the same way that they did in the Championship. I believe they're going to double down on that, and it maybe is then a hard game. United struggle to score. Maybe they do win. And then you go back-to-back, Derby, Chelsea, you lose those games. Say, now it's a situation whereby you're sitting with like 2 points or something in the first 5 games.
See, that's the thing, Jay. It's that outlook that you think that we're going to be horrible yet again. And I know, yes, our league position, we finished in 50th, and suggests that not too great,
because,
right?
Chuck, the evidence tells me that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but that's an anomaly. I get you going on evidence, but how often have Man United finished in those places versus the teams that are above them? How often have Forest gone into the Europa League? How often have Forest bothered anyone? How often has Burnley replicated their form from the league in the champion in the actual Premier League? It hasn't quite happened. Okay, so for me, Jay,
Chuck,
here's what I'm saying. Right, number one, say Matthias Cunha is there. Say Mbuma gets over the line. Right, we've got Ahmad back. That gives us at the very least 20 more goals. At the very least 20 more goals. Number one. Number two, the off season that I'm talking about and the philosophy that fixes a lot of the defensive holes, because that's what United were poor at, being very porous. Yes, we were struggling in terms of goals. We scored that one goal and we looked like it was close. We concede one, our heads drop, or there's too much space or too many chances being conceded. We concede another one and we lose that game. If we then at least hold out and we concede half the goals that we concede, which is not necessarily like a record number in terms of our defensive numbers. Say we only concede 30 goals versus the number that we conceded prior. We're in with the shout, Jay, not to win the championship.
You're talking about the season.
Not to win the... Yeah?
You're talking about the season. I'm talking about like those first 5 games. And what you are talking about is, yes, that gradual like improvement. And maybe you do get an extra 20 goals like from Mbeumo and Acuna and whoever else like is on there, right? But I'm saying that kind of that hope that you have can be predicated by the fact that we got a chance to get these players to acclimatize and to get the performances there, and that everybody feels comfortable in the system or in the second year of the system and everything else that has happened in preseason. But what I'm saying is, if that is knocked at the very beginning, you might not even get the opportunity to see the best of. And I would have preferred, if I'm a Manchester United, I would have preferred not to have this kind of start, because as I'm saying, like, it's an Arsenal who finished like twice in second place 3 times in a row. You know who Manchester City are, and you see their reinforcements that they've added and continue to add. Chelsea as well come into this season having qualified for the Champions League, and you imagine that they're also going to be better. So United don't start any of those games as favorites. They like,
or the 3 listed.
Those 3 games.
Okay,
those 3 games. They don't start any of those 3 games as favorites. And against Fulham, I'd say it's 50-50, Chuck.
Even though according to the stats that you're bringing up, we did a double over them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't like blow away victories, right?
Yeah.
But and it's away from home. There's also the fact that it's away from home. That's what I'm also taking into account, that that's an advantage to the teams who are playing at home. So it could get terrible. It could be great
Jay,
now, right?
It could be
great now, like, because say United like surprise all of us, which is possible, and they go away from those 5 games with like 12 points, whatever the case may be. Now you're looking at a season whereby, okay, this is going to be very good. But the likelihood when you look at those teams on paper is that it's not going to be good. And I feel that before the end of, I don't know when the 5th game is played, but I think maybe before the end of September, we're going to be having conversations around, like, is he the guy?